This is created by Jesse Alexander. Now,
No, it's not. No. Armstrong.
It is created by Jesse Armstrong.
He said Alexander.
Yeah. Sorry, I meant Armstrong. I do apologise.
Even when you're looking at it, it's not 100% you're going to get it right.
I don't know. I'm just looking at Jesse Armstrong. All right, I made a mistake. Back off.
We're starting early today.
You two, just back off. Created by Jesse Armstrong, who you may recognise as a British man. Yes, he is. He has written the Mitchell and Webb look. He's also written the key thing he's written is what's the thing he's written?
Peep Show.
Fresh Meat.
Show, thank you.
And Fresh Meat.
Fresh Meat. Yeah, this is loosely based on the Murdoch family, and by that I mean loosely enough they won't be sued. But basically, you have a media empire which has been made by Brian Cox, who plays the head of the family, Logan Roy. He is kind of on the downside of sort of handing over business to his. Now, I think this is his eldest son.
No, it's his second eldest son.
It's his second eldest, right, okay.
Alan Ruck is the eldest son, the guy from Spin City and Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
With a very young girlfriend.
And his second youngest son, is it Jeremy Strong that plays him? Is it Kendall Roy?
Yes.
I think it is. Yeah, that's his second son. And he plays kind of I don't know, he appears to be slightly incompetent, but at the beginning of the episode, he's actually trying to close a deal with a startup tech company to sort of take them over and have them sort of brought into the empire. And throughout this kind of episode, you see him sort of fumbling the negotiations, not really listening to his aides, and sort of showing that perhaps he still needs his father's help to sort of close the deal. But we're coming up on his father's birthday, and the events are centred around his birthday get-together. Which, in true opulent style, starts off at home with a meal, and then all of a sudden they all jump in their helicopters and go off to play softball.
I mean, you don't?
Not every birthday.
No, not every year. Maybe special birthdays.
On my 12th birthday, I think it would have been. No, 11, in 94. I went up in a helicopter on my birthday with Noel Edmonds and Mr. Blobby. Wow. That's how I roll. He drove it, and I was in the front passenger.
Was this a dream?
Not Blobby. No, it was true. It's real. Yeah, it was at the Silverstone Circuit, which is still local to us. And
was this like shot for Noel's Christmas presents?
No. I'm not a charity case.
Well,
no, he was just doing it for some kids in the local area, and I happened to be in the local area and of the right age, and I went up in a helicopter with Noel and Mr. Blobby. When I say Noel was driving, not Blobby, that would have been awkward.
So there's other members of the family, as we say. There's the older brother, who is played by Alan Ruck. There's another younger brother who's played by a blooming Culkin. No, not Macaulay. Kieran. Was he ever in any of the Home Alones? I don't know.
Yes,
he was.
He was the younger brother in the first two Home Alones.
The first proper ones.
And he plays the kind of younger brother, the kind of like the freeloader, the drug-taking, loves having the money, playboy type brother.
The Gary of the group.
Yeah, the Gary of the group. And then we have a sister. What's her name? Let's see if we can find her name. I think that's Sarah Snook. Is that Shiv Roy?
Shiv. I said Shiv.
Siobhan. It's Sean for Siobhan.
And she's married to another Brit, Matthew McFadden, who pops up as her husband Tom.
Mr. Keeley Hawes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, married.
Fiance.
And he appears quite two-faced, and there's a very interesting scene with one of the nephews on when they're playing softball about him sort of appearing to sort of have fun with him, but you get the impression that he's not really having fun with him. He's actually teasing him. But basically, on the day, they go out to this kind of softball game, and just before the softball game, Brian Cox announces that he's not stepping down as the mogul, the head honcho, that actually he's going to carry on, and he's kind of not handing the business over to the second son. What starts off as looking like a family thing almost turns into like a business arrangement dinner, doesn't it? With sort of family sort of siding with each other and having conversations. By the end of the episode, unfortunately, Brian Cox has had an aneurysm. Or a stroke, brain hemorrhage, and appears to be in a vegetative state, and and we've got the company pretty much left in limbo at that point. The deal with the emerging tech company does get signed, but it appears to be quite aggressive in that there's a lot of animosity between the son and the guy that he's bought out. There's some quite tense words in the boardroom. It appears to be that what we've got here is what's going to be a very tense kind of like who's going to stab who in the back and sort of like that kind of drama. My thoughts are that I thought Brian Cox was really good. I mean, I think he's a really good actor. He's shown that pretty much in everything he's been in. I didn't like any of the others. I know you're probably not supposed to like Brian Cox, but I found his character quite sort of ingenious.
I think you're right. There's nobody here to latch on to. There's nobody to like. They're all pretty despicable, and it's hard to relate to them all because they're all so wealthy and, they're quite up themselves. It's a world we're not seeing much of. But I have to say, I've watched the second one just to see where it goes, and I have to say I think I'm going to keep on watching because I think, although I normally need somebody to latch on to, I just like the family dynamics between them all, and I like the cousin who's trying to find his place in the family, and the second episode is all about the family in the hospital trying to work out what they do next. They send the cousin off to get him out the way. They send him to the house to get a load of things, and I love the way they sort of use him to their advantage. The girl who plays Shiv, Sarah Snook, who's Australian, who I've seen in a fair few things, she's really good, and she's got a good chemistry with Kieran Culkin. But it's all written by English writers, but it feels very American. There's not an American writer on board, they're all English, and I don't know whether that's why I like it, but there's just something about it that interests me, and it wouldn't ordinarily, because again, they're not likeable people, they're horrible people, and why would I want to spend more than an hour in their company? But something about it resonated with me. I'm not even sure what, but I quite enjoyed it.
I'm sort of where you are, Luke, really. I agree. I've only watched the first one, but I think I am going to watch some more of it. I think it's the dialogue. I think you're right. It's very snappy. It's very fast-paced. This first episode directed by Adam McKay, who did stuff like Anchorman and The Big Short and things like that. So it is sort of very snappily directed as well. But the barbs that go back and forth between, it's like the big business, it's like the bitchy family stuff. I love the stuff with Alan Ruck bringing like sourdough bread mix for his dad's birthday as a present. I thought that was a great scene. I didn't realise he was one of the kids at first. It took me a while because he's the only son from the first marriage, and then the other three are from his second marriage, and then obviously he's now in his third marriage to this woman who he wants to leave most of his resources to. But I think you're right as well, Luke, that the character of Greg is meant to be sort of like our proxy, isn't he? He's this hapless youngster he's like the great nephew of Brian Cox's character, who's the grandson of his brother that he doesn't see. I liked him. I like the scene where he gets a job as like a mascot in a theme park, and the kid tries to ride him, and he pukes out of like the eyeballs of the
that was a really good scene.
Yeah, there are some genuinely like funny moments in this, but Brian Cox sort of grounds it as this sort of billionaire who's sort of out of touch with the modern world a little bit as well. So it is quite timely I suppose in a time where the country is being run by a businessman in inverted commas, and I liked it, and at its heart it is like a family. It's a family
drama, isn't
it? It's like a bit like a sort of Parenthood with money. Parenthood meets billions.
Brothers and Sisters was what I was thinking of as well.
Yeah, I've watched the second one, which I think you'll both enjoy because it's the hospital and they're all in a confined space. Matthew McFadden is actually, I'm not always his biggest fan, but in this he plays a very different character, and I liked what happens to him while they're at the hospital.
I haven't liked him in anything since Spooks.
I didn't really rate him in Spooks, to be honest.
Well, I did, because I think I could get behind
what his
character was trying to do.
Ambassadors, if you remember that.
I do remember that, yeah.
Ironically, has he ever been in a series with his wife?
Yes, Ambassadors.
Spooks.
Oh, really? He was in Ambassadors, was he? Oh, right.
And
they were both in Ambassadors, but I don't think they're ever on screen together.
They were in 3 series of Spooks together, though. That's how they met.
To draw a line under it as well, Gary, Jesse Alexander worked on Heroes, so maybe that's where you know.
Yeah, maybe that's. Or I just can't read.
Don't.
Moving on.
Moving on.